And a jolly good morning to you from a very bright and breezy Broadstairs here in Kent, England. And it's a nice sunny day after a few days of what you could class as torrential rain, really nasty weather for this time in late spring. It's May, and a lot of the UK today is still suffering from some very heavy rain, but down here in Kent it's all gone away. So today I'm going to take the opportunity and take a walk from one of my favourite little seaside towns here in Kent, Broadstairs, and take a walk via Ramsgate to Sandwich. Yes, the place named after the food, or the food named after the place, you decide. And we're going to head on that way. It's round about 9 miles and should take me approximately 3 hours. And that is Crampton Tower, built in 1859. So I'm going to head off now to the seafront and take the walk along the coast and then inland slightly towards the end after Ramsgate towards Sandwich. So when you arrive here in Kent to come out the station, you, dependent on which exit you use, you essentially come out and take a left turn, and instantly you can see the seafront. It's a short walk from the railway station down the road, and once we get down there we shall take a right turn heading off towards Ramsgate and onwards to Sandwich. Another fabulous walk, and I've actually posted a video of that, is the walk from Margate to Broadstairs, although that was mostly just photos turned into a video, but you'll get an idea of the kind of walk that you can have along the coast here in Kent, which is surprisingly beautiful, particularly the further away from London you get. I wouldn't say the North Kent coast is particularly attractive, although it does have one or two interesting points, places around Herne Bay, Whitstable and so on, quite nice along there. But the best part of Kent, for me at least, is just along this far eastern point, where you've got Margate, Broadstairs, Ramsgate and so on. One of my trusty old apps that I use, this particular one today called Go Jauntily, is actually sending me through the park there, but I just fancy walking straight down to the seafront. It was just going to wind me through the park and back to the seafront a little bit over in that general direction there, but I'm just going to take this route. It's the route I know best anyway, and Wantsum at the seafront, there's only two directions really to go, or three if you include where you've just come from, and I should be taking that right turn. Quite a few, it's a bit of a mixture of a town really in many ways. It's got all the usual sort of chain places here, quite a few independent shops, and it's a seaside resort, so obviously it's got quite a few seaside orientated pubs, cafes, restaurants, fish and chip shops, that sort of thing. And should I have enough time at the end of this walk, I will most certainly be calling in for some fish and chips. If not, I'll have to wait till I get home, but fish and chips by the sea invariably is a lot better than inland, where I'll be later on. The new old bakehouse. I wonder where the old bakehouse is. Right, so here we are. That was between 5 and 10 minute walk down from the railway station, and we're at the seafront, and the English Channel is glistening nicely today. And I have to say, it is a really lovely beach here in Broadstairs. If you go down there, there's loads of cafes and fish and chip shops, pubs, etc. that you can while away a few hours, or if you do go for one of these long walks, head on in there for some refreshment later. I'm not going down there today. You'll arrive in that direction if you walk round from Margate, and that'll be your first real main point in Broadstairs once you get here. You can see it's a lovely little beach, but I'm heading off in this direction today towards Ramsgate and onward to Sandwich. It's an interesting sign here, just explains the history of the promenade and Viking Bay. I believe many years ago there used to be a sea link ferry named after Hengist. I'm sure that was scrapped at least 20 years ago. It's relatively quiet here this morning. It's only just gone 10 o'clock, so fairly early anyway. It's also been, the weather this week has been absolutely terrible. This is the first nice day really, and it's also outside of the school holidays. The May bank holiday and school half term here will be next week, so if I came down this time next week and the weather was nice, I expect that this would be much busier. But it's very nice today. The weather's just about right for going for a walk. I'd say it's about, at the moment at least, about 15 Celsius, light breeze. Probably sounds worse than that on the microphone, but it's a nice cooling breeze and ideal for a nice walk along the coast. Probably not ideal for a swim in the sea, but I'm sure some would, especially those younger ones that seem to not feel the cold quite the same as us older ones. The pathway I'm on now is part of the Ramsgate to Whitstable footpath coastal walk, and Whitstable is quite a long way behind me. As I say, if you go back in the opposite direction, you'll head towards Margate and then carry on round to Herne Bay and Whitstable, but that is a fair old trek from here. I wouldn't like to hazard the distance in miles actually, but be quite a few, and certainly something that if you want to do the whole thing in a day would probably be better off done on a bicycle, I would have thought, and it would be a fine bike ride too. If we carry on in this direction, we would eventually come to Dover, which of course is famous as a cross-channel ferry port, and the White Cliffs. We certainly will not be getting anywhere close to that today, as it's probably double the distance to Sandwich double the distance, so probably something nearer to 18 or 19 miles from here, and I've neither got the time or probably the energy, to be fair, to manage that in one hit today. But I think it's definitely a walk to consider, Sandwich to Dover for another day. Another nice beach there. This is part of the beach that dogs are allowed on. As you can see, there is some dogs there digging a nice big hole. The main beach back by the little pier there, and that I showed you earlier on, that's dogs are not permitted there. So there's a couple of signs there, one saying the See It All Walk and another saying England Coast Path. If you Google either of those, I'm sure you will find some further information and useful tips and hints as to what you can expect here. Nothing quite like walking next to the sea. I don't care what anyone says about run-down English or British seaside resorts and the problems that they face, which are quite unique in many ways to other parts of the country. There's nothing quite like being able to walk next to the open sea, breathe that sea air in, and some sand, and in some cases pebbles, dependent on where you are. But certainly, as you'll see here, beautiful golden sand, and those dogs are still doing a fine digging job. I don't know if that picks up on the camera or not, but there's an awful lot of offshore wind farms now. Ordinarily, I would say it's pretty tranquil and calm and so on up here, but as luck would have it, the local authorities are deciding to cut the grass and trim the verges today. I'm sure I'll soon be past all those guys, although I can see quite a few of them up into the distance there, so I'm sure I'll be past them as I start to leave Broadstairs itself. There is a lower path that you can walk along. I'm not entirely sure how far that goes for, and if I can complete the journey down at that level rather than this, so I'm going to stay up on the cliffs for the time being at least. Hopefully I'll be past these guys soon. I know they've got a job to do and it needs doing, because this is a beautiful grassy area here on top of the cliffs to maybe sit down and have a picnic and chill out. So they're doing a good job, but yeah, all I can hear from one side is the grinding noise of a petrol strimmer, and to the left the far more tranquil and relaxing sound of the sea. Hopefully that's it, and it'll disappear into the distance soon, and all I'll be able to hear is that lovely sound of the sea breaking on the beach below. I've probably mentioned the Go Jauntly app, which is my go-to app usually for these kinds of walks, on numerous occasions, but for those that haven't heard it before, it's an app that will send you on a more interesting routing, let's say, than say Google Maps would do, between 2 points, or a circular walk from one point, and has also got a lot of interesting walks uploaded onto the app by users. So in theory I could have arrived here today in Broadstairs and just asked it to select a walk and then follow that walk. There'd be a series of photographs and various pieces of information about what I'm looking at with the uploaded walks. The point-to-point or circular walks, the app does it itself. Strangely, it has neither routed me on this path I'm on now or the lower path at the bottom of the cliffs. It's actually routing me on the pavement over there, which is a little unusual actually, because generally speaking the app will send you on well, what I perceive at least to be the more interesting routing, which would certainly be where I am now, or on the cliffs below the cliffs I should say, on the path below. Now, just looking, when I walked around from Margate to Broadstairs, it was mostly the lower level path by the sea, and some of it was just walking along the beach. Now that will rather depend on the tide as well, because just looking over there, I think I'd have to take my shoes and socks off to get around that sandy bit by the headland. And the lower level path does, or lower promenades as it's called, seems to end just there. So presumably I could have gone that way and come up some steps just along there somewhere. So I think I'm on the right one. Not quite sure why Go Jaunt is sending you on that footpath over there by the road. It's unusual actually, it normally avoids things like that, but anyway, nevertheless, I shall stick to this. It's running parallel to that road the whole way, so I'll stick to what I'm doing now. Just come up to the historic telegraph cable station from the days before microwaves and satellites and so on. And presumably we had a cable running under the sea from here to France and beyond. Telegraph station. Path seems to come to rather an abrupt end there, and you end up walking on the grass this side of a fence. Now I'm assuming there was a path just over there at one time, but coastal erosion has caused it to either disappear completely or become too dangerous to maintain a path over there. So it's all overgrown now, so I imagine it's been like that for quite some years. So, just on the other side of these trees and bushes is a sheer drop down to the sea. Looking up in the distance there is Colborne Lighthouse. Whether it's still a lighthouse or a private residence now, I'm not quite sure. It looks like it's probably a private residence or maybe even a hotel. Oh, the blissful silence and the sound of the sea. I was doing a video the other day in London. I don't know if it's just my age or what it is, but gosh, London sounded noisy. I'd never noticed it that noisy before, but it just seemed that everyone seemed to want to talk very loudly or shout, and there was clanking and banging and building work going on, and all the vehicles seemed to be louder than usual. I must have been having a sensitive hearing moment or something, I'm not really sure, but it was quite incredible. So as I spend quite a lot of time in that environment, and I do live, relatively speaking, out in the countryside, away from a lot of town noise, perhaps I just notice it a little bit more. And I don't know. This is the Viking Coastal Trail, incidentally, according to that sign now. So they've got a number of different trails. Used to be a ferry company many years ago. Don't know if any of you remember it. That used to go from Ramsgate to Dunkirk, called the Viking Line or the Sally Viking Line. Oh, those were the days. Anyway, there's the lighthouse, and it most definitely is not a. At least I don't think it's a lighthouse anymore. It's certainly got a light in the top of it, but looks to me like just a normal residence now. What a fine place to live. Beautiful view out to sea. Well, certainly from the lighthouse anyway, from ground level here. There's a few too many trees in the way just at the moment. It's quite an undulating walk, this one, incidentally. It's not particularly steep or lots of hills, but there's quite a few that go up and down, so if you're slightly less mobile, you might want to just consider whether it's for you or not. I'm fine, even though I might sound like I'm out of breath. I'm not really. Just seems to come over worse on the microphone sometimes, I think. Nice little cafe there. Not been going long enough to justify stopping for a coffee yet, but if I see something similar further along, I should say, I'll definitely consider a quick pit stop. Oh, there we are. Back to the seafront properly, and the top of the cliffs. Just seen a sign back there with regards to these gardens, and it said Clifftop Gardens maintained by volunteers. Now, absolute hats off to those volunteers, because the gardens look absolutely splendid. You can't really see them. It just says public gardens, actually, maintained by volunteers. Another sign just there, and I think a little notice about how you can donate towards it. It'll be a charitable setup, and certainly they've got them looking beautiful. But this is a seaside resort that relies on tourists and holidaymakers wanting to come and spend time here. Why would the local authority not be paying for this themselves? That's the question I would ask. Fantastic that there are volunteers around that will do these things, but really, I always find it a bit of a shame. Local authorities, especially in places such as this. I think it's nothing to do with them. Provision of public toilets as well. You get a lot of day trippers coming down here who don't necessarily want to go into a pub or a cafe, restaurant to use their facilities, as most of those places will provide them, of course. But do we always want to traipse in and feel obliged to buy something just because we need to visit the loo? Yet these authorities shut public toilets down, and they're an essential service, particularly in a place where you have a high amount of visitors who can't just go back to their own home or hotel necessarily, guest house. It does baffle me. It does baffle me, I have to say. But anyway, hats off to the volunteers that keep these gardens looking so splendid. They really do look great, and at springtime, probably looking at their best. Probably completed approximately a quarter of the walk now to Sandwich, and we're just approaching Ramsgate and what was the ferry port. Used to went on that ferry a few times actually from here over to Dunkirk. I think they went to Calais at one point as well. And the Channel Tunnel put paid to a lot of those ferry services, which is a shame because I used to enjoy going on the ferry. It felt like you were properly travelling abroad. You were going somewhere. You leave Britain on a ferry and hop off at the other end in France or Belgium. It felt like you'd travelled somewhere, but now 20 minutes under a tunnel and arriving in a fairly nondescript, not particularly picturesque part of France. It's not quite the same, I'm afraid, although of course it has to be said is an awful lot quicker. That's what you think about when you think of British seaside hotels like that along the front, and little shelters like that as well, and usually pretty golden sand, which is what we have here in Ramsgate. I'm sure it sounds very windy on the video, so apologies for that, because it's a little bit annoying to listen to sometimes, but there is a breeze, but it's not too bad. I know it comes out a lot worse on the camera than it does in reality. Beautiful day though, beautiful day. Absolutely ideal for a walk like this. This area here with the bandstands looking a little bit ramshackle these days, I would say. Rather faded old Ukraine and European Union flag up there. Could do with getting that changed. Just coming down to the Ramsgate Harbour now. And what used to be at least the ferry port just over there in the distance, I can see, where the boat would dock and the ramps so you could drive your car on the ferry. Pretty sure there aren't any ferries like that operating from here anymore. There's a lift there that will take you down to the... There we go, the guys again. Busy getting that grass cut today. Mind you, they've probably been sat inside drinking tea all week because it's been far too wet and rainy for them to get out and do jobs like that. So, first bit of sunshine, a bit of dry day, and they're out here. Yeah, beach is looking splendid as well. That lift's been around a while. It's closed, mind you, but there you go. Little sign here about it, I think. Yeah, that could do with being given a little bit of a clean up as well. Harbour lift. Harbour lift, open weekends only from Easter, 10 AM to 6 PM, open daily from Whitsun, 10 AM to 6 PM. Well, Whitsun is this coming weekend, or the Whitsun bank holiday is this Monday in a few days' time, so it should be open. I'd imagine they'll open it. It's Thursday today, so possibly from tomorrow as the weekend begins, or Saturday, but yeah, not open year round anyway, or in fact not open 24 hours. Some nice gardens here as well. Andriff locals, volunteers have keep that looking smart as well. In fact, I'm going back to the app now. I'll wait slightly away from the seafront and take it following the routing that's given me. And it is in fact through these gardens. In fact, they're set up in much the same way as the other ones I saw back there, so I imagine these are looked after just the same by local volunteers. Some interesting little establishments just along here. There's the rope locker, house and garden, and something fishy, the Little Arch Gallery. Thanet Diving and Water Sports, little cafe and coffee shop just there. Nice place to sit down for a quick breakfast or coffee. Someone had a pint there as well. Even better if you want a pint. paraffin sold here. Very nice down here. The only times I've ever been to Ramsgate before were for the ferry, and I do remember on one occasion getting here, coming by train and going as a foot passenger, and getting here very, very early, and coming for a little walk down here. It's very vague memories now, though, I have to say, because that was an awful long time ago, probably 35 years ago, something like that, I would say. But I do vaguely remember this, have that sort of deja vu feeling about it, walking along here. On other occasions I've taken the car, so really you just time your arrival to go and join the queue to get on the boat or ship, and don't really see this part of the town, which is a shame because it's actually quite nice. Certainly a nice fresh sea smell here. SSMV Starbuck, a Ramsgate historic vessel, and I'm guessing that's it there. Pilot manoeuvring in nicely. These aren't the actual White Cliffs of Dover, but they form part of the same chalky headland part of England that are also the White Cliffs of Dover. Obviously the White Cliffs of Dover are at Dover, but basically that same chalk that's all along this coast. This is a bit of a dull part of the walk, actually, just a load of kind of maritime type businesses on the left there, next to the water, and this kind of almost like a service road, I suppose, but it's where the app's sending me, so presumably the best way of getting to the next part of the walk. See how the cliffs have been reinforced with concrete there to stop all those houses falling down. I can see sea at the end of the road, and once we get back along the seafront properly, away from this kind of industrialised headland, we'll be at Westcliff. Indeed, that's where the ferry used to dock. There's the ramps, and just here in the foreground is where you would come and park up or start to queue in the line that they told you to queue in, waiting time to board the ferry, the car ferry. All seems a bit sad now and a bit lost, but there you go. That's unfortunately what Eurotunnel did. As great as Eurotunnel is, as I said before, it's not quite the same as getting on that car ferry going across to France. You know, back in the day, there were so many car ferries, both from Dover, from here, various other places, Newhaven to Dieppe, and you used to be able to travel across very, very cheaply. There used to be vouchers in the newspapers and special offers, and a day trip fare across to France and back would be a very inexpensive thing to do. And some people almost operated a business doing it, popping over, getting some cigarettes within their allowance every day, and some bottle of whiskey or whatever, and could make a couple of quid to cover the cost of their day out, and passing it on to friends and so on. I'm not sure that was strictly legal, but certainly many people used to do that and buy buy stuff in France that you could either at the time not get here, or it's cheaper in France, that kind of thing. And you've had a day trip into the bargain. I think some people used to go across every day. Spot a lunch in Boulogne, come back again. I can think of worse things to do on my day off. It's all not quite as simple as that these days, or as inexpensive either. But anyway, times change, and still a sign there for ferries, although I'm not really sure any ferries still operate. Okay, probably wouldn't win any awards for views, but it's still a beautiful beach just here, nice sandy beach, and shame that looks like it's been left to ruin. Vandal, can see there's been some fires inside there, and graffiti, that kind of thing. Not a great look. Not the sort of place you want to let your kids wander about in anyway. Welcome to Westcliff. To remind you to drive on the left for all of those from France and Germany that used to arrive here on the car ferry, and maybe after spending a couple of hours on the ferry had forgotten which side of the road to drive on once they left the ferry. So I'm just heading towards about halfway on this walk now, and still getting some lovely clean fresh sea air. As I say, towards the end I will be going inland a little bit to Sandwich itself. For the moment at least, be carrying on along the coast here, listening to that lovely sound of the sea. For a ghastly moment I was going to be sent in that tunnel, but luckily no, once I've got around here I can see that it's the footpath goes around the cliffs rather than through it. That's a relief. Nothing worse than walking through a tunnel with cars. Tide's quite high at the moment, just here. Didn't really notice it back there. I know the tide goes out quite a long way at Broadstairs. There's quite a lot more beach than that on display normally, but here there's no beach on display. See, took a slight wrong turn there. Can't get past those cliffs there. You've got to take the path up here. My fault, wasn't paying attention. No vehicle exit to highway. Well, that's okay then. So presumably people yomping along like me can exit. Well, it was quite a walk up a fairly steep hill, but let's go through this park now. Children's playground ahead, so I'll stop videoing for a bit for obvious reasons. So I've come out onto Pegwell Road now, which rather handily shows on the map that there's going to be no proper footpath, so you just have to be a little bit careful and be aware of that. Shown on this particular app as a normal road, kind of shrouded in like a pink, I'd say a pinkish coloured overlay, so you know that particular part of the walk's not got a foot. I mean, it's got a footpath just here next to the houses, but that disappears, so I'm not quite sure. There's certainly not a footpath on that side of the road. Although again it does start again down there, so it's a bit unusual. Just Pegwell Bay Caravan Park just coming up here on the left. Luxury holiday homes for sale, scenic and peaceful locations. Certainly scenic, and certainly looks reasonably peaceful as well. Just walking back down now towards the sea again after a diversion around those cliffs. I've heard of Margate, Ramsgate, Dover, Broadstairs. Never heard of Pegwell before. It's a little place here, Pegwell Bay. It's escaped my attention over all these years. That seems a nice enough little place. Now I'm here. There's some cooking going on as well, which really smells nice. I imagine that's probably coming from this pub that I'm just walking past now, or maybe the hotel just there. I find sometimes signs relating to walks, cycle paths, and just general signs of rights of access and that can be very misleading and confusing at times. Up here it mentions 3 different walks, so it's probably 3 different walks of varying lengths and routes that converge here, and then a sign saying private road, no access. That just means private road for vehicles, but it's still a public footpath. But it could cause you to think, oh, can't go up there, but you can do. I have to say, from up here, when you look through the bushes and trees, the sea is looking lovely. I'm always mentioning this. I walk all around the world, mostly in Britain and Europe, but other places too. And it's always been my opinion that only in Britain do complete strangers speak to you on a consistent and regular basis. Just say hello, good morning, good afternoon, whichever. And in many parts of the world, you say good morning or whatever to a complete stranger walking in the opposite direction. You, in some cases, you're just stared at in almost disbelief. Not everywhere, but certainly a lot of places. Certainly looked at with a degree of suspicion, and I'm wondering, is this a British thing? I know in Australia people do tend to talk to you and say hello back, or randomly say hello to you that you've never met, and kind of in America too they do to a certain extent. But certainly, even if you have a smattering of the local language, so you can say good morning, good afternoon, or whatever to them in their local language, they still seem to, in many cases, seem a bit bemused. So I don't know, must be a cultural thing, just something I've observed over the years. But those 2 gentlemen back there, I don't know if they came out on the video at any point, but just walked past them. They were engrossed in a conversation between each other, general chat. I walked past, both stopped, both turned round, both said hello, good morning, good afternoon, and I reciprocated, of course, and off we went. And I'm sure if I decided to stop and ask them a question about this path I'm on or something like that, they'd have been more than helpful and more than willing to tell me what they know. Yeah. I don't include London in all of this. Then again, London's unique. It's not really a not really England, is it? It's an international city, really, and people behave a little bit differently there, let's say. Certainly down a proper footpath now, and I'm glad I'm down here today and not any other day this week, because while the ground is still a little bit damp, it would have been an absolute bog down here a few days ago. Oh, fantastic conversation there with a lady and gentleman that are walking a Camino walk to Canterbury along this route, and were telling me they're going to be walking northern Spain from A Coruña to Santiago de Compostela and down to Fistera. I've actually got a video on that part of Spain, not walking the Camino, I hasten to add. What is that awful noise? But a beautiful part of Spain and a lovely place to walk. And there's the Viking ship, or a replica of a Viking ship. I think someone's house alarm's gone off. That's great if you live near here, listening to that. And we're also, as part of the Camino here, we're also on the Viking Trail and the England Coastal Walk. So you're sort of on 3 walks all at once at the moment. And ahead's a beacon. The beacons that were lit to warn of the Armada arriving. And you'll find those all over this country. And there is in fact a sign telling you roam in that direction. Ramsgate and Broadstairs. Sandwich and Dover. 4 miles still to Sandwich. So getting there slowly on this walk, just coming up to 2/3 of the way now. And as I'm determined to grab some lunch before I leave Sandwich, I'm going to put a bit of a pace on now. Pity about that noise going off though. There's the beacon. Oh, stand still a moment. To be along a relatively quiet coastal road. There's some really nice houses here, and lots of trees and bushes on this side, just sheltering the cliff tops from the elements. Just looking at this jet petrol station ahead, and prices are $1.42 for unleaded and $1.50 for diesel. That's at least 6 or 7 pence, in some cases 10 pence cheaper than where I live in Hertfordshire. How can that be? Crazy. That's per litre. I usually put 50 litres or so in my car, which, if my maths is correct, is getting on for £5 for a full tank difference in price from this station to the one that's near to me. This is the Viking coastal path we're on now, and I do believe an actual Viking ship was found here, and I don't know if they took it out and preserved it, or it's still there when the tide's low. You can see it. Vague memories, but put Viking Ramsgate into Google, and I'm pretty sure something of interest will come up. I shall do that later on when I've got a moment. Just find out. And I suppose that answers why that Sally the Viking line was named as such. Perhaps showing my ignorance of this part of the UK, but it's true. You can't know everything about everywhere. And I do live quite a long way away from here, but this is certainly, when you get away from that road, a really, really nice footpath to walk along by the water here. So just this is a footpath that obviously I'm on here, and the road over to the other side of the trees on my right is the Sandwich Road, so we're heading in the right direction. I'm going to come away from the sea now and head inland towards Sandwich, and in parts walking along the River Stour, or certainly the valley and estuary of that, as it leads into the English Channel. So I'm interested to see what we see on the rest of this walk. The Viking Trail is quite a way inland from the sea now, and suitable for bikes as well. There are certain paths that you can go through this protected wildlife area. But for today at least I'm going to stick to the slightly more direct footpath route. Temperatures starting to get up quite a bit now, probably in the towards 20 Celsius I should think. So back to walking along next to a busy road at the moment. Don't know why Ramsgate's been signed in this direction. Oh, I see, it's a right turn and then back in the other direction presumably. But hopefully I won't be walking along this actual road for too long. As you'll know if you've seen any of my other videos, I've got a bit of an aversion to walking next to main roads, especially when there's no footpath. Fortunately, it looks like the remainder of this walk to Sandwich itself is along or fairly close to this busy main road. Doesn't look like there's too many deviations from that, so I'm not going to film too much more between now and the end. I'll just maybe pop on a few bits and pieces of interest, if indeed I see any at all. I'm about, I'd say about 2.5 miles now from Sandwich itself. And who knows what I'm going to see along the way. Bit of a funky smell going on just here as well. I think there must be some sort of waste station or something over there. Something that smells a bit chemically and not too great, I have to say. Hopefully be out of the way of that soon. There's another Gulf fuel station here, which is slightly more expensive than the other one. And I imagine that Esso one in the distance will be even more expensive. Anyway, we shall see. have to say I'm somewhat slightly disappointed at the last third of this walk, being so close to this busy road and kind of industrial units and stuff like that. However, we plough on. We seem to be moving away from the busiest road now and just sort of heading off down here, down to something a little bit quieter and calmer, I think. And as we enter the outskirts of Sandwich. But yeah, I think in the future I will stick to the coastal path where possible. However, I needed a train at the end of my walk, so Sandwich was decided upon. Oh, loads of rubbish down here. One of my pet hates, as I've mentioned on many occasions before. Beer cans, Pringles packets, McDonald's, you name it, all down here. Take it home, put it in a dustbin. It's not hard. Not hard at all. There's the River Stour over there with what looks like a power station or something next to it. Quite industrial next to the river just here. Similar to next to the Medway on the other side of Kent there towards as it leads out into the River Thames. Quite industrial around there as well. But Kent's an interesting county actually. It's got lots of really beautiful parts, especially in the middle, in the rural parts. Some quite industrial bits that are by the River Thames estuary and by the coast here. Maybe that wasn't a power station. There's lots of wooden logs actually, so maybe it's some kind of sawmill. We're just coming up to Discovery Park, the hub for science, technology, business and enterprise. Again, it's not exactly ideal for walking along, but it's much better than that busy main road anyway. There's a power station here, I think. I can hear the buzzing of the transformers just over there. Certainly plenty of wood over there. Guessing we will arrive in Sandwich shortly, or the centre of it. It's certainly got a less than salubrious outskirts, it has to be said. There's a place to buy some sheds here anyway. Quite a good selection actually, looking in there. Okay. Garden room really, I wouldn't call that a shed. Stonar Lake or Stoner Lake, looks nice. Almost into the centre of this small Kent town. Little way just down the road there, probably 3/4 of a mile at the most now, and a mile to the railway station, which is where I'm actually planning to finish up, although I will end this walk in the centre of Sandwich, as I maybe would like a sandwich or a sausage roll if I see a Greggs. We live in hope, but most definitely a drink. It's not too bad now we're away from the really busy dual carriageway. Just this single carriageway road into the town now. But this does, where I've just walked, does form part of the England coast path. Unfortunately, due to the industry by the coast there and so on, it's probably not possible to actually have a path right next to the water. But anyway, I'm guessing This is better than nothing. Lake closed until further notice. Interesting. Due to unidentified bacterial infection on some of the stock, all species. That's to do with fishing. The ancient town of Sandwich, we're finally here. Yeah, that the part of this walk and path, once you leave the coastal area up to Sandwich itself, is not the most inspiring at all. I mean, it's okay in the sense that there's a nice defined path most of the way that you can walk along or cycle along, but aesthetically speaking it's not that great. But it's not always about it being a great walk the entire way. The beginning and the end can be great, and the middle, you know, gets you from A to B. So that's the way I look at it, and it's also a decent amount of exercise. I'm just coming up to almost 10 miles, so the original showed us 9 miles. However, I have deviated slightly off the route here and there and meandered somewhat, so that does cause to add a little bit of distance onto it. And just coming into the town now, which hopefully I can have a little look around before I head off to my train and home. US Navy. I feel like they're slightly off patch. There you go. Costs to use the toll bridge across the Stour. A vehicle drawn by 6 or more horses or other beasts. 2 shillings and 6pence. And then another one for 2 shillings and 3pence. Not quite sure. Interesting. Well, this is a lovely little small historic town. It more than makes up for the unfortunate area between Ramsgate and here. You can climb the church tower for a small fee. Please pay at the desk inside. Unfortunately, I don't have time for that today. It says there are fantastic views of Sandwich. No Name shop on No Name Street. And more noise. Well, what a fascinating and interesting little town this is. Shame about the drilling. Everywhere I go these days there seems to be somebody digging a hole or using a pneumatic drill very loudly. So let's get out of here. Gonna head back to the station now and find a little shop and grab a snack and a drink. So officially this walk from Broadstairs to here is about 9 miles, although in reality it's been 10 miles and has taken about 3.5 hours approximately, which isn't too bad. It was a nice walk. As I say, there was that little section there, the last third, which was less than impressive, but it's a means to an end that gets you from A to B, and you're still getting a walk in at the same time. So that was quite an interesting walk. I'll be doing some more from Kent and other places around the UK fairly soon. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please click on the like button. If you want to see some more of my other videos in and around the UK, Europe and other parts of the world, then please press subscribe and you'll be able to find them there. And if you want notifications when new videos come out, you can press that yellow bell. But apart from that, unless I see something massively interesting between now and the railway station, that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers for now. Bye.